Well, allowing yourself to settle comfortably onto your chair. Recalling that point that I was emphasizing a couple of days ago with that drinking bird, that spot just in front of the sitting bones.
Such a great image for that.
The drinking bird?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
I thought about it a lot yesterday.
Especially that Badoanjin, those couple of movements.
That's what I was thinking about it.
Sherpa couldn't get it to work, so I set it up for him, so it was still going when he arrived. It's been going now. It goes for days and days at a time. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I have no idea how it works. I'll ask you later.
It's just temperature, yeah.
Wow.
A very volatile substance that rises.
Wow.
So it's down and it warms up, and so with every movement, it jostles it, causing it to rise a little bit further in the tube. It jostles the liquid, causing it to rise further in the tube, and eventually it jostles it enough so that it comes to the top, and it's heavy enough so it goes boom.
That is so interesting.
Which causes it to then go flow back and then sits up again. And that's that same feeling of when you lean down, you're just softening and everything kind of moves. And then to sit back up, all you do is sequentially relax down. So I drop the weight to my shoulders, my mid back, my lower back. I drop it to my waist, my hips, and it sits me up.
Yeah, you have to let go, completely let go of the whole spine to do that.
It's really neat. That's right.
That's what I'm noticing.
And all in the interim period, there's all of that weird tension that we tend to hold ourselves because we don't know how to let go well enough.
Right.
And so that quality of learning how to go down to stand up. It's the same when if we sink during Qigong and we settle, people stand up by pushing their feet down. Instead, you stand up by softening that way and it goes, and it stands you up. And so if they can't get it sitting, they're not going to be able to get it standing. And so the first thing is when you settle forward, and everybody tends to lift, especially here, and they go, or they push with their feet. Instead, you just soften, and it makes me fall down.
But if you can't soften yet, then
you
gotta do what you gotta do to get back up. Or don't lean in limbo forever.
Don't stay. That's right.
Hey, Del.
Don't send me your emails. Oh, Del's here. Welcome, Del. Don't send me emails. I'm stuck. I've been at a 45-degree angle. I can't use my back to stand up. So how do I get upright?
That's right. Yeah. Like sometimes I find myself like in that position where I'm leaning over and the softening just isn't happening, and I'm waiting there forever. And it's like, okay, I gotta get up.
Maybe you went too far then. In that case,
yeah.
Only go as far as you're able to allow to return. Maybe that's a rule.
That's really good advice in general. Yeah. Yay, Del! Promoting the video. Thank you, Del.
Is he? Oh, thanks, Del.
Yeah, he's telling people to like the video.
Del, you are the master of the universe. Letting everything settle to that point in front of the sitting bone. Falling through your body and letting everything release downward. Like when my tea leaves become hot and waterlogged, they slowly sink down, except for the yang ones, which go down and then come back up because they're obstinate. But that's what it's like for us. 90% of our weight sinks down, and some aspect of that allows us to fall upward. And so there's this natural lifting through the body that happens, and it has nothing to do with us adding force or trying. The more we soften downward and are able to trust and release to that process, eventually we are free to float upward. And the trick is to let go deeply enough to find that. And then there's that awkward in-between time that Mel and I were just talking about. But continue letting go, continue being soft. It's okay that it's odd in the meantime. In fact, as I was saying yesterday, that sense of it feeling strange, like an upright seated posture, if you're in correct alignment, when your body has been deformed and forced out of alignment, that correct alignment feels strange. And that's, in a way, a good sign. And you just sit in that strangeness, following the correct principles. And your body will slowly adjust to align with the correct position and posture. That's how it became deformed in the first place. You were standing in a strange way, so your body tried to regulate and change to match the odd posture. You just simply reverse the process. But you reverse it through letting go, not through tightening up. With each exhalation, softening further. With each inhalation, deepening that stillness. Remember that stillness is the foundational skill of any Daoist practice. A few more minutes of settling, softening through your whole body. Waves of softness traveling down to your fingers, down to your toes. Releasing any tendency to restrict or grip your breath. as we continue through this set, do your best to maintain this sense of settled calm, this presence and awareness. And again, for today, because we've been talking about posture, this clear, upright position. Might as well make it easy for yourself.
We have a Mags.
We have Mags. Ach, hi the
new.
Can you do your best Scottish accent?
Oh no, I would want to offend.
They were saying I was beginning to sound Irish. I don't really know the difference. Yeah.
That's funny. Good on ya.
Mags, we are getting ready to hopefully record another Turtle Talk today. You are the most interested listener. Everyone keeps asking about the podcast, but I think you're the only one actually listening to it. Yesterday we were doing research, literally contemplating the water, contemplating the mountain. I built a fire up and stared into the fire for a half an hour, all in preparation for understanding the trigrams. And so it's pretty fun. Remember that it's very common when people are working on their upper body to lift their shoulders instead of sink them, or to perhaps lean back or crouch forward somehow. You want to maintain that comfortable upright position, your shoulders over your hips, resting on that space, everything letting go. Don't hold your breath. Don't tighten your core. Don't concentrate your mind. Don't fake a smile.
I'm so good at it.
Oh my gosh, we're so trained to be false. Just let go. Let yourself disassemble so that you can fall into place. And of course, before I work on the face, I'd like to, as always, welcome the people who are new and aren't quite sure what we're doing. Please check down below for a link to a video that will teach you this set. we're on the last week, just about, of a 100-day series. And so we're not covering all of the basics, but I do in that particular video. Feel free to watch it as many times as you like. The more times people watch these videos, the more time my YouTube channel gets. So feel free to just leave it running in the background for days at a time. Softening around your eyes.
Del says he's going to start falling asleep to your videos now. Oh no.
You're going to have the weirdest dreams.
He'll be doing the practice in his dreams.
That's right. Today is my Seattle anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. 8 years ago, I flew from Costa Rica to land here back in the States, which I never expected to return to train with Master ZhiCheng full-time. 8 years of training. I still have the same shirt.
And all I got was this lousy t-shirt.
In Taoism, it's very traditional in the way that Master ZhiCheng didn't really accept me as a student until I'd trained for 3 years with him. 9 years is another one of those periods where they watch you and you train hard, and if you improve enough, then they'll teach you other things. So we'll see if next year or today, 1 year from today, if I get to learn a new level of training, or if it kicks me out. This is all you've learned in 9 years.
Are you going to ask him or let him know that it's been that much time?
I told him today.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Mags asks, what made you train with him? It's a good question.
I'll talk about it in a little bit. But if you want the full story, I think I go into it in one of the Free and Easy Wanderer videos on Patreon. That's where I talk about a lot of my personal stories and stuff. So if you click on that collection, you'll see a whole bunch of random stories about my life.
I'll remind you again at the end.
Okay. you feeling?
Good.
You've been practicing a lot lately.
Yeah, it's been really nice.
Mel spends all of her time outside doing Qigong and Tai Chi and Bagua. And
Just the last couple days.
Mhm.
It probably won't last because it usually doesn't. But
everything goes like this.
Exactly. I'm enjoying it right now.
It's really nice. Well, you're improving so fast.
Thanks, bud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I spent the majority of my life hunting for things, and a lot of the time visiting various masters and temples and ashrams, and living there for long periods of time and training as hard as I can to see what I can learn. And one of the things that I discovered is that even when people have very great skills, that they don't necessarily have what I was hoping to learn. And part of the difficulty was that I went someplace to learn something, and then the training would change me as it's supposed to. And then I realized I actually wasn't interested in learning those things. And so then I would travel to another place and study with another master. And I kept looking for a teacher that would teach what I wanted to learn, that would help guide me to become the kind of person that I want to be. Because again, that's what we're usually talking about. We're not talking about stuff. We're talking about transformation, at least in my opinion, if you're doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd even traveled to China to go and become a disciple with the head of the Chen village, which is where Tai Chi comes from, and left kind of disillusioned, although they were wonderful. And spent time in Costa Rica doing the doctor thing for a while, living in the mountains, waiting to see what would happen. And some big changes happened there for me. And that opened me up in a new way. And so I decided finally to return to the States to study with Master ZhiCheng, who is famous all over the world. I heard about him everywhere. People come from China and all over the world to study with him here.
His teacher is the abbot of...
Yeah, she's of Qingtianshan. She's basically like the head of Dragon's Gate Taoism, the mount. She runs the mountain. And he's her favorite disciple.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's neat.
That's what she says. And she's so wonderful. And he's a disciple of Master Feng Zhiqiang. And just like super skilled and amazingly skilled, but also amazingly kind. I think something in me expected to have to look and do things the hard way, work with somebody who didn't speak English and who treated me poorly, and all of these expectations I think I just had built into me from the kind of childhood that I had. And then once I let all of that go, I realized that there's an amazing teacher who I had already had wonderful experiences with. And so I kind of tossed aside my pride about returning to the States and came back here, and I'm just so happy that I did.
What was it that left you feeling disillusioned by the experience in the Chen village?
Oh, I don't want to talk bad about people. You know?
Oh, okay.
And they didn't do anything wrong. It's just that I changed about what I wanted. I had wanted to become a, super hardcore martial artist guy using Tai Chi to fight with, and we went there and we would train, and we'd be standing in a huge puddle of our sweat and training from morning until night and leaving bruised, and that's how they see Tai Chi there. And the training was wonderful and correct, and they were so kind. They were going to let me practice medicine there so I could get make a living, and I was going to stay there. But then I realized that wasn't what I wanted, even though that's what I thought I wanted. And I still didn't know what I'd wanted at that point, just that it wasn't that typical journey through life thing. It happens to everybody, I think. And so I ended up going to Costa Rica instead to do the medicine thing. We opened a free clinic in the mountains in Costa Rica I was there for 5 years, I think, until I decided to come back 8 years ago.
And you had heard about ZhiCheng while you were in Costa Rica or before that?
You hear about him everywhere.
Really?
Yeah. I first heard about him from, from one of my instructors, who's one of his disciples, Nate, who I made an interview with recently.
Oh, that's right.
Who told me to come, and when I was in acupuncture school. But I'd heard about him before that. I heard about him actually from Ken Cohen. I was having tea with Ken Cohen, and we were talking about training in China, and he said, you don't really have to go to China, even though this is why I still thought that I did, because I thought all the real masters are in China or in Asia someplace. And so he said, you don't have to go to China. It's like, where can you find a master the level of Master ZhiCheng in Seattle? And that stuck with me. But I didn't, it was all still too easy. It was in the United States. I didn't want to be in the States, and just all the things that I thought I needed and wanted. And fun circle to wander through.
Mm-hmm. Del has some very good advice in the chat whenever you feel like.
Thank you, Del.
Giving it a read.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate.
Very back, my dear. Do you want a refill or anything?
No, thank you. While Mel's gone, I can tell you how great she is too, and how fortunate I feel to have the chance to spend my time with her as well. In general, the world has been overkind to me, and I recognize it. It's one of the reasons I try to share as much as I can. Feeling into that space beneath the skin, that membrane layer. Continually softening your hands. Just a reminder to make sure that your posture is allowing your body to be released upright. Taking the time to settle. If you're still learning how to settle and you're not even sure what it feels like to settle, then you should definitely take even more time to settle. Softening, letting things sink as best you can. Find those places where you are holding yourself up on the inside and the outside, and release them so that they settle down and down and down. It's already getting warm in here.
I noticed that. We're not going to need the heaters anymore.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Are they off downstairs?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because all the heat ends up coming upstairs.
Yeah.
In fact, if you don't mind, will you open the window for like 1.5 minutes?
No, I don't mind.
Just to let the excess heat out. I keep the window closed because the river is right next to us and it's very loud.
Is that going to be okay?
I think so. You all let us know if the river is too loud and it comes through the microphone too strongly. If I threw an apple from this window, it would land in the river, so it's just right there. Taking the time to soften your solar plexus, your upper abdomen. Releasing your breath. This is one of the areas that tends to cage your breath with tension. So we soften those bars, those lines of tension. Especially this time of year, releasing the rib side, softening. The friendly touch. A kind-hearted approach to touching your body. If you find yourself feeling especially frustrated or angry this time of year, stifled, frustration and anger is the externalized version. The internalized version of that feeling is shame, guilt, these kinds of qualities, resentment. It just depends where you're holding it. But all of them need to be dealt with in this very gentle, friendly fashion. Don't try to force things to release. The explosiveness of that energy expression is really destructive to your body and to the world around you. So take your time just to be soft and extra patient here. If that's you, if you hold a lot here emotionally and physically, then maybe spend a half an hour just releasing your waist, and it would be a worthwhile time. releasing emotionally through expressions of kindness, which is like a slow and gentle pressure release valve for that energy. Someone who is kind and generous and friendly, genuinely kind, not fake kind. That person who's expressing that energy all the time can't have a buildup like this. They're oppositional to each other. Letting your awareness soak into that layer of the body. The sensations in my fascial layer over the course of these last 91 days, is that it? 91, I think?
91.
Has changed. It's very interesting. It went from kind of a gentle warmth, comfortable awareness, but no strong experience, to now paying attention to it every single day, which gathers chi in that layer. Now it's this really strong, almost electric kind of sensation. It's almost a ticklish feeling as it moves. It's very interesting. So clearly things are changing just from this simple practice, just placing my awareness there. And so if at this point in the practice you still can't easily feel the space beneath your skin, which is normal, everybody's different, my recommendation is to continue doing this or other kinds of practices that allow your awareness to soak inside the body a bit. And then when you can start to feel more reliably inside the body, to return to this 100 days in the future. It's all going to be online. And I think that you will find that it changes your experience quite a lot. This whole set is one of those practices that can be a daily health practice. It's a wonderful practice for a lot of reasons. A really excellent meditation and loving mindfulness practice. So if you enjoy it, then even after the 100 days is up, I highly encourage you just to keep on with it and to let me know how it progresses for you. One of the reasons Master ZhiCheng teaches so many different things is everybody feels an affinity toward some particular set or movement or style or weapon or method. And when you find those, you settle into them and train them for a while. So if this is that for you, just make the decision to make it part of your daily life. And please do share it with at least one other person. Remember to maintain good posture. So as your shoulder travels around, soften your shoulder blade down. Don't lift your shoulder up to get your hand to your back. Instead, it goes the opposite direction. Your shoulder softens, your body lengthens, crown of your head floats up. Your back stays flat and open rather than arching or rounding. And again, you can use the backs of your hands if you're not flexible enough this way or it's painful for any reason. But please do not contort your body to make this happen. Better to skip it entirely if you have to, if you can't find a way to make it work. Continually softening your shoulders, your hands, your arms, your back. And then when you're ready, allow the warmth of your hands to soak into the back. Very easy. Perhaps you feel as though the breath begins to release the lower back. Eventually, as your back relaxes enough, it expands and releases with the breath. So it actually moves. I don't know if you'll be able to see it against the shoji. With your breath, as much as your belly does.
Maybe turn a little more, if you can. You might have to move.
Well, I'm trying to see it in the.
Oh, you're looking. I'm sorry. I'm telling
That's
you
okay.
what to do.
That's all right. You can tell me what to do. I don't mind. So I'll try to line myself. Maybe you can see my back moving or not. So I'm not leaning or rounding my back. I'm just breathing. And that comes from softening the back. And so continually letting go. I'm not forcing the breath there. My breath is there all the time when it's supposed to be because my back is soft. Not because I'm making it flexible or pushing my breath there or doing anything strange. Take your time. Eventually, you'll feel your breath moving through your entire body. That's another strange experience of getting to do push hands and things with Master ZhiCheng. You feel the breath moving through his body.
Really? Like everywhere?
Like in his arms, and it expands into his skin, and it's very interesting.
What?
Yeah.
That is wild.
It's just part of his fullness. The breath, it's integrated. It's not a separate thing. But I realized that this entire 100-day course has become a advertisement for people wanting to study with Master ZhiCheng. I do highly recommend it. If you can, come train with him or find him online. The links are all down below because he will be probably retiring soon.
Yeah, he also offers online classes every day of the week.
He does. Yeah. He still trains more than any other person that I know. Very nice person. So before he vanishes from teaching to the wider community and is just, you all are left with schlubs like me, you should definitely take advantage of the opportunity to study with genuine masters when they're around. Tell him Dr. Blue sent you.
He'll be like, was it this Dr. Blue or that one?
We live in an era when everybody likes to call themselves master this and master that. It's ridiculous. I remember living in a little town in Arizona, and I looked in the phone book, and I was looking at various martial arts places. I would go and spar with various teachers around, and was looking for people to fight with. And I can't remember the number now. It was something like there was 20 masters and 6 or 7 grandmasters living in this little town. It's ridiculous. Some of them were 20 years old. It stops meaning anything after a while. And at least by my definition in the world, there's really only a handful of genuine masters for any given art at a time. So you have to go looking for them. They won't be in the closest building to your house.
Max says, I don't like to study with anyone who is called master.
We call him that. He doesn't call himself that. He barely puts himself on his own website. So when you go there, you probably won't even get to look to find out if it's his or not. That's one of the really good signs about him. But that's a very good point.
Phil says they probably went through their spiritual course training on how to become enlightened in 8 weeks. John.
Oh my
You never
gosh.
know.
I've seen those. Those are things. I officially have no opinion. That's the safe statement about that.
No opinion to give publicly.
No public opinion. Just public faces that I make. Remember, as you release, that lesson from the little drinking bird toy resting in front. It's what we were talking about in the very beginning of class. This quality that if you lean forward, when you stand up, so to speak, when you become upright again, it comes because you sink down your body again. Like that bird filling from the bottom, it just naturally falls upright. Soften down your body and it naturally lifts you up, which is a skill to develop. But what you don't want to develop is the habit of pulling yourself back up, tightening your back. Learn how to soften your back. And the movement becomes more and more free. And that by simply softening through your body, movement happens on its own. And I did forget to mention it, but in case you are somebody that has been celebrating Ramadan or are just in a process of fasting, please do in general be careful with strong Qigong practice. Your body becomes a bit more delicate during those times, and so you want to go slowly and be especially careful. Like even just if you're leaning over and your blood sugar is dealing with fasting, you might find yourself getting lightheaded with movements even like this, or if your breathing increases. And so if you are fasting for any reason, please be extra careful during those times. Just be gentle. Continue to soften your hands, softening your breath.
Am I doing it right?
Are you on spleen 6?
I have no idea.
Can you point to with your finger to where you think spleen 6 is?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay. So this ankle bone, top of the ankle bone. Take your fingers, place them from the top of the ankle bone next to it, just so they kind of run up against your. Can you feel the top of the bone there?
Uh-huh.
Good. So just up against it, and then if you come to the other side of your hand, right on that line where the bone ends and the soft tissue is, for the most part, it should be right there.
Right.
If you, because you feel your shin bone, and it falls off into a soft spot
Toward you or away from you?
toward you.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, thank you. I've gotten into this routine of just kind of rubbing wherever it feels good.
That's good too. That's a fine
But I
thing.
probably should be paying more attention to the points.
The points themselves are effective, and so it's worth, because there are points where things connect, and especially with the fascial system, these sinew channels, these things that overlap and lace, they often overlap at the points, which is why they're super strong.
Yeah.
And so if you poke around, there might be one spot in particular right there that's really sensitive, and so that can be the center of your circle.
Gotcha. Give me about 8 more days and then I'll get the purpose of the class.
Just as it's done. And the set does so many things, and after so many days, I've come to appreciate it more and more. I'm like, wow, it's really good at this, and it's really good for this. I used to love it, and I would do it every year for a month or so, or a few weeks with friends. Get up early, do the meditation and my practice when it was cold, and sit in front of the heater and do this practice for a half an hour or an hour or something. It always feels really good, but I had never really put the time in.
Yeah, it does. I know. It really, like, it's true what they say about community in that regard, kind of shaping your routines.
It does.
Like, it really, it's motivating to practice with you and with Nabs and Del and Chris and Steph. And
Yeah.
it really, this is the first time I've ever done 100 days. And even though I'm not massaging the correct points, I'm still getting
You're still getting
a lot of
benefit.
benefit out of it. Huge benefit.
Yeah, the points themselves are just one aspect of the healing. Even if you just spent the whole time softening your hands, and it was a hand softening routine, that softness spreads through your whole body. Let alone learning to cultivate this quality of mindfulness, like where we're constantly coming back to the body. These somatic meditations are so helpful. It's like in a regular body scanning meditation where you're just sitting there and trying to move your awareness around. That can be very difficult for some people. But instead you're like, I'm here I am. You're constantly getting back in touch with your body.
Yeah.
And for people that are not very well anchored in their body, I think it's a fantastic practice. It might be the best practice for that I've ever heard of. And it's very safe for people who have wild minds or the tendency for qi to rush around, because then Qigong becomes very dangerous for them until they can center and calm and ground and stuff. Yeah, so many positives about this set. This fascial quality for people, if they can start to feel the layer of fascia and to actively move and relate to it, that by itself is a really big step in internal practice. It has to happen at some point. Or just the loving kindness practice that's within it. Like cultivating that friendly, kind, relaxed quality, and then directing it at your own body, which is, for so many people, it's a center of self-hate and contempt and all of these things. And so just to have that chance to relate in this way is by itself super healing. Remember to really take the time to ease open and soften your feet.
I really like just the center.
The kidney 1 point.
The center, yeah, the center of it.
The bubbling spring, it's called. Yeah, because it's really like the qi bubbling up from the ground, that kind of image. Yeah, especially if people are going to do a lot of standing posture with me in the future, then if your feet are tight when you start standing, it's just this wildly painful process for them to slowly use gravity to kind of be torn open and to release, and your feet hurt for a long time.
Yeah.
But if you take all this time to soften and ease them open so that by the time you're standing, they're already soft and flexible, this is way more pleasant than just standing on hurting feet. But that's what I always used to tell people to do because I didn't know any better.
Lately I've been noticing it's like one of the most pleasant sensations in my whole body. I notice it when I'm laying in bed. Just that spreading of the toes and the feet,
Yeah.
the lengthening, and it's just, it's so good.
It does. I agree. Get yourself nice and comfortable. And again, if you can, position yourself in such a way where the weight is sitting in front of the hips, or excuse me, in front of the sitting bones, in that sweet spot where you can balance. If your hips are too tight for you to be able to pivot and lean forward to put the weight in that spot, then you'll have to sit higher or find a different position so that you're not, again, rounding backward onto your tailbone. Do you want to sit on this? I can sit on the ground.
That's okay.
You sure?
I've never been more sure in my life.
Wow. I hope that you say something like that the next time we get married. I don't think we've mentioned the marriage thing.
Well, now you have to.
No, well, maybe.
John proposes to me every week.
Yeah, we get married every week.
And I get a little ring every week.
She has a giant pile of
I always
rings.
tell him, like, yeah, I have like 50 rings or something now. Like, you don't have to keep getting rings. But it's very, very nice.
How long? 3.5 years?
Almost 3.5 years.
It's a lot of rings. Softening, lengthening your legs to your feet. Softening at your hips.
Max says, sounds expensive getting married every week.
That's where all of my donations go.
I tell him all the time, Max, I'm like, we could be saving this money if you want. Fortunately, they're not like expensive rings.
No.
They're just very, very thoughtful.
I try to get a ring that it's usually like a novelty ring or a handcrafted thing, something. And it has to do with what we did that week. So I try to make it a personalized ring each time to remind us about that week in the future. It's fun. It's my little ring diary.
Seriously.
You just say that because you're nice to me. Lengthening your spine, lengthening your legs. Don't shorten. Only go as far as feels comfortable. Waking up your feet. Waking up your spine. Opening your back. Remember that what you're doing is lengthening the bottom, lengthening your lower back, lengthening your spine all the way up. If you remember where the kidney channel travels on the body, you can take the time to allow that to lengthen and expand. Softening your shoulders. You're lengthening your elbows away from each other, around your shoulders, outward. If I was to pull on your elbows to lengthen that joint, so that you're decompressing all of this, decompressing your waist, settling your weight onto that point in front of the sitting bone so that your spine can soften, your lower back can soften. Please be gentle, soft, and kind with your body. It's been very good for my beatboxing.
Beatbox while you do it. Then I'll be impressed.
Make sure that you do not continue so long that it adds tension or discomfort to your tongue or your throat. Just long enough so that things get warm and alive, and then end, or take a rest and do more. But don't add tension, please. After swallowing and following that pathway down to that space in your abdomen, your middle dantian, feeling things warm and collect your awareness settling there for just a minute. And whenever you are in the mood, you can lay down on the floor if you like, making certain that you use bolsters and cushions, blankets, whatever you need to feel warm and comfortable. Whatever it is that helps you release and relax the most easily. It can be very nice to have a little nest prepared for yourself. Allowing your awareness to spread out through your whole body as you soften. Not doing anything in particular, just letting go, being easy. Lying comfortably for as long as you'd like. Remember to sit up carefully if you decide to. Your body's probably softer and more open than it's used to, and so it's a little easier to injure a joint or strain something when your body isn't protecting itself in the same way. So just be careful. And we just take a minute. Again, feeling into the center of the body, that middle dantian space between the navel and the spine. At least feel your navel. If you have trouble with that, you can just poke your finger into your belly button until you notice it, and then have some sense of awareness there. And then from that point, let your awareness spread out through the rest of your body, but without losing that point. That's like the center of the light. You just put a lamp in the center of you. And that light shines out through your body, all the way to your fingers and your toes. And then it's as though it shines out through your skin into the space around you. So your awareness then expands to include the space around you, but remains grounded and settled inside your body. Too often people have the seat of their awareness, the center of their awareness in their head or in their chest, or even worse, outside their body someplace. And that can be very damaging. And so please do settle and ground your awareness inside your body until you create that strong anchor so that all of your emotions naturally settle. Your mind naturally settles. Your body naturally relaxes and nourishes instead of stressing out and becoming excitable in an unhealthy way. And that's a really wonderful way to practice, simply making this the center of your day. Thank you for joining us. I very much appreciate you. If there's questions, I'm sure Mel will gatekeep and chop off the head of anybody trespassing.
Yes.
And can everybody hear her, that the sound of the river is not too loud?
Yeah, let us know if it's too soft or loud.
I'm slowly buying up. What I actually spend donation money is on buying pads to make the room a little less echoey, but they're expensive, so I'm slowly putting them on the walls. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mags asked, what made you decide to train with ZhiCheng?
I think I answered that.
Not that I recall. I remember we talked about it, and I said that I was going to remind you.
That's because you weren't listening.
Really?
Yeah, I talked about my journey from China to Costa Rica. Yeah, it was just that Master ZhiCheng is super famous, and part of the reason is that in my clinic, for some reason, one of the interesting things is that every person who practices medicine tends to attract a certain kind of client. And for me, and I don't know what it says about me, I tend to attract people who have damaged themselves with Qigong and meditation. I see it all the time, like constantly. And now, because I've had much experience with it, people now seek me out after they damage themselves with meditation and Qigong. And so I treat them even more often. And I was looking around for a system that was safer because the ones I'd been practicing weren't very safe. And so then I damaged myself, of course, as well. And this system, the Longmin tradition, is famous for having a deep understanding of what we call Neidan, this internal medical work, as well as the Hunyuan system, which is a Qigong system related to it, is famously safe and gentle because it's related entirely to being grounded, settled, peaceful, kind. It's not trying to do all these wild things that cause injury. And so once I realized that that was what I was looking for, it became even more obvious that I really should go back to the States and study with Master ZhiCheng, since he was a well-known master of both systems, both a famous Daoist master, Dao Shi, and of that Dragon's Gate system, and a head disciple of the guy who created the Hunyuan system. I hope that answers it. And then he was nice enough to say, yeah, come live with me, which is kind of a wild experience.
Related to that, Del asked, what secret moves do you learn after 9 years? Will you, or no, I'm sorry. He says, whatever secret moves you learn after 9 years, will you share with me? Or do I have to train under you for 9 years first?
I'm very good at keeping secrets. And so if I'm given secrets that are only to be given to people at a certain level, first of all, I don't know them because I haven't trained with him for 9 years. And he would only give them to me if I met the requirements, because I could train for 9 years and not be good enough, or not have the right kind of character, or whatever it is that he, as a master, sees necessary to learn this next step. Because there will be plenty of people that just aren't the right people for this or that method or technique. And he holds a whole lineage. And so he may say, here, this is good for you, and this is good for you, and you're not ready for that, or this would actually be harmful for you. And so I'm not saying that those things exist because he doesn't talk about them. I just think it's interesting that, like, the course of training over time, these trainings change you, and the instructor watches to see how you change. And if you quit after a few years, that kind of thing. And that's part of the learning process, is becoming worthy of the instruction. So we'll see how it turns out. I'll keep training hard or soft.
And then there was another question in here from Del that I am looking for. Okay, is shame ever a good thing, or is it always a bad thing to feel?
Oh, well, maybe if we use certain, too bad Steph isn't here. Steph's actually trained psychoanalyst. Definitionally, the way that I know it, guilt is what you feel when you feel that you've done something wrong. Guilt is a thing that you can prepare. You pay for the broken window. You apologize for rear-ending somebody in your car. Shame is how you feel when you believe that you are something wrong, that you are bad, not that what you did is bad, but that you yourself are wrong. And that's a deep pathology that is something you can't just fix with a thing that you do. Buying cool blue pants like me or excellent socks won't do it. You have to change how you see yourself through this loving kindness and through letting go certain ideas. And so under that definition, just because we have to have definitions, the feeling of guilt is something that can be healed, and it can be useful because you recognize, oh shoot, I screwed up. And then you go fix it. You should always fix it. And shame is something that is pathological because it's based on the idea that you are wrong, that it's possible to be bad or good, which just doesn't make any sense. It's something actually that's really strong in this culture and where that I grew up in. It's not so strong in a lot of other cultures that I visited. And so this self-hatred thing, this shame idea, I actually remember the Dalai Lama when he mentions that when he first came to the Western world, I can't remember where he went. I think he went to New York or something. And for the first time, he was exposed to the idea of like self-hatred in the way that we experience it here in the States. Yeah. So I think it's actually stronger in certain cultures. You all can imagine why. And so from that perspective, in the definitions that I'm using, I would say shame is never a good thing. Not to inflict on somebody else, and certainly not to take upon yourself. It never causes the kind of change that we want to see in the world. We want to heal each other, not continue to wound each other. That's one of those deep discussions. In my opinion, is that shame is something to be let go of and to be healed.
Ooh, Max says, I really like what Brene Brown writes about shame. I love Brene Brown.
I've read all of her books. That's where I got the definition from. Do you want to share a quote, Mags?
She says she recommends her videos.
Yeah.
And I co-sign that.
Yeah. She has a good TED talk or two. That's how I first found her. And yeah, her books are wonderful. So yeah, I'm a big Brene Brown fan as well.
Yeah, I think there's one TED Talk in particular that may have put her on the map.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but I feel like she gave a TED Talk about vulnerability.
Yes.
Like her research over the course of many, many years. And it just, it enlightened like the whole nation, like millions and millions of views.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
It made her very, very well known.
Yeah. I don't agree with everything that she says, just because the approach that I prefer is this Daoist method based on letting go, and the concept of the mind is a little bit different from the perspective of these Eastern traditions. So like definitionally, some ideas about the mind or the self would change. But I certainly have learned a ton from her, and I will probably listen to all of her books again at some point. So yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned her. I'd forgotten her name.
Yeah, Max says, I love gifts of imperfection.
Yes. Thanks, Mags. That's great.
Del says, thanks, John. Yeah, shame is not so easily defined. I have trouble sometimes understanding it all.
Yeah. It's a lot. And I don't mean to pretend that I understand it. Just that we want to be kind and to heal through loving kindness.
Yeah, he says, like, I would think it would be shameful to let people down that I care about.
Oh. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. And you deserve to have the opportunity to unpack it. So, yeah, I highly recommend that you chat with people that will help you take apart those ideas and to put them back together in a way that maybe is because you are also important in that equation, not just the people that you love. The people that you love usually will love you, and they also wouldn't want you to feel that way. And so definitely part of what we're working on healing here. But it's definitely also something that you should reach out to the people around you about, because you might be surprised at how that vulnerability starts that healing process in a big way.
It's true. Yeah. I feel like that is such a common, like, human experience. Like you said, especially in certain cultures. And the more we hear about it, the more it kind of frees us of certain ideas and self-imposed expectations.
That's right.
Or expectations imposed by society, or, you know.
There certainly are lots of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the gifts that I get to experience by being with Mel is that part of our marriage, we call it our enlightenment contract. And we are always as vulnerable and as open with each other as we possibly can be, as perfectly natural, with no masks. We don't hide anything. And that constant openness and vulnerability and affirmation of each other's true nature is so healing by itself, but it can be scary at first. And so you have to be willing to open yourself up to being seen. And then once you experience being loved for who you are, and also loving yourself in that way, it's a wonderfully nourishing experience. Vulnerability, yeah, especially in again, the culture that I grew up in, guy culture, is a really big deal, because we're not supposed to feel and we're not supposed to care, and everything that's modeled for us is about being cold and distant and uncaring and superior and never weak, and allowing ourselves to be human that way is such a gift. And then you give that opportunity to other people when they see you being human and showing your soft underbelly, so to speak, then it gives them permission to be themselves. And we need that as a contagion around the world. People being themselves. Gosh, that would change a lot. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you all.
Jill says, can I borrow that enlightenment contract deal? That's so freaking awesome.
An idea worth spreading.
Yay, I think that's it for the questions. I don't see any others. Great class today. Thanks for joining us, Mags. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mags. We appreciate you.